the podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Happy Tuesday. It's Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Brennan Riker behind the glass taking care of us. We'll start with what we have on the airwaves tonight. 5 o'clock over on 93.1 Texas FM. Liberty softball is at home against Slayton. It's 7 o'clock after it. Baseball will go, taking on Slayton at home as well. Again, you can hear both of those games on 93.1 Texas FM. We have First Four action tonight. The tournament officially underway, although in my mind it's still unofficially underway. 5:30, we'll hear it. You can hear it on 100.7. The score. First game up is Howard versus Wagner. 5:30 on the score, and then 8 o'clock after it is Colorado State taking on Virginia. 6 o'clock after we're done here on Double T 97.3, it's Red Raider baseball. They take the diamond at home against Abilene Christian. Will we have a Max Huffling sighting tonight? There should be an obligation to that, right?
He threw a couple of he faced a couple hitters the other day, but yeah, he's got some bullets to fire. Zane Petty on the hill for the Red Raiders. And
Rolando De La Cruz.
Yeah, big JUCO right-hander for ACU. Yep.
Boy, that's a name you can lean into. That's a fun one. De La Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully he has a horrible night, though.
Good arm. We'll use both secondary pitches. I think it could be a good challenge. Talked about his numbers being a little higher than they might otherwise be because he's gotten all the tough Tuesday matchups. Mm-hmm. Would have been in their weekend rotation prior to the season. Had a little injury, so he's working his way back through the midweeks.
Certainly looking to bounce back as well from the weekend against Baylor. You can hear that starting at 6 here on Double T 97.3. We'll break down that game more as we go along with the show. Texas Tech sophomore Pop Isaacs has been named to the NABC All-District Second Team. Announced the 2023-24 NABC Division I All-District Teams and District Coaches of the Year earlier today. The collegiate districts and stuff are always interesting.
Well,
here's your first team: Max Asmus, Hunter Dickinson, Taman Lipsey, Kevin McCullough, and Jamal Shedd. Isaacs is on the second team with L.J. Cryer, Ray J. Dennis, Dylan DeSue, and Emmanuel Miller. Kelvin Sampson was the district's Coach of the Year. All Big 12.
Those NABC, ABCA does an all-region. I think most of the region-type teams come from the Coaches Association, American Baseball Coaches. You said NABC is the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Mm-hmm. There may be a football version of that. I don't know in terms of an all-district team. But, yeah, they cut the country into, New England and the Southwest and those type deals. So sometimes sometimes one state will dominate it, as you are seeing.
Which is interesting because you could have more Big 12 members, like with whatever district West Virginia's probably a bad pick, BYU's in, or like a UCF over there. Who knows how other many Big 12, players got picked in whatever district they reside in, but it is certainly not in that little vein that you hear there right down the pipe with Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas on the way down. But congratulations to Pop Isaacs. Again, you can hear him in action on Thursday as they face North Carolina State. Now, coverage on that will start at 7:30 here on Double T 97.3 live from Pittsburgh. Speaking of honors, getting more track and field awards today, Wes Kitley was named the USTF CCCA Men's National Coach of the Year. Also had Zach Glavish get his first national honors. He won Men's Assistant Coach of the Year. Of course, they're coming off of the Men's Indoor National Championship. They will compete in their second outdoor event of the year already this weekend as they host the Masked Rider Open. And last but not least, the College Football Playoff and ESPN have agreed to a deal through the 2031-32 season. It is a new 6-year, $7.8 billion contract that ensures the network will remain the sole media rights holder in the event through the 31-32 season. Of course, this was expected, was looking for the final number. They have not nailed down officially what the format that will, be on its way to being announced. You're hearing different versions of what it could be. Will it go to a 14 team? If it's a 14 team, is there going to be automatic bids past just your conference champions? Will it be a 3-3, 2-2-1 like we've heard with the Big Ten and SEC getting 3 autos, the Big 12, ACC getting 2, and then 1 to Notre Dame and group of 5, whatever. Time will tell on that, but the groundwork has officially been laid where you have that contract running through 31-32. And just before we get this question, it is still 12-team playoff over the next 2 seasons.
It does give clarity, provides some clarity. As you said, it puts a year deadline, does some things. I really was hoping that other networks would be in on this, like the NFL playoffs. I don't like that ESPN has enough juice to televise it all and get it all on, but when one provider can do that, it maybe takes some of the competition out. They could what if they decide to go all pay-per-view with the thing someday down the road, whatever, I don't know, but I'd prefer like CBS and TBS and all that divide up the March Madness. I would prefer we have something like that, but it's all right. I'm glad it's happening. It's better than a 4-team deal. So
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and kill the juice. The next 2 years, I'm very excited to see what the 12-team playoff is going to look like. I'll be honest, with all the, and just talking about like the Clemson stuff and the ACC trying to disrupt and blow itself up. Not all of the ACC, like you said, like the Wake Forests and teams that you think might be left behind in the dust. You think they're going to fight tooth and nail so they don't end up in the same boat as your Washington State and Oregon State, which again, I know they were doing it as a life raft, but it's like, hey, Stanford and Cal, thanks for showing up. Get ready for the same sort of firestorm you were just in the Pac-12. And I don't really care about SMU. I think that's kind of funny if it happens to them, I'll be honest. But as far as the expansion of the playoff, I mean, the talk of, hey, it's not really going to matter what you look like on the field. It's going to be the SEC for sure getting 3 teams, and then the Big Ten getting 3 teams. And you're seeing this. You're not expecting it. You are seeing it happen. The separation of the Big Ten and the SEC from contract standpoints and revenue share standpoints down to the Big 12 and the ACC if it survives, and then another level. So I guess in the scheme of things, at least you're the next one in line, but everything just feels so, I don't know, gross probably is a bad word because you've known that money has run this whole thing, but just the elitist side and then also the danger side, like, hey, you're closer now than you ever have been in the talk of the Super League and basically 2 conferences being the sport. I mean, that talk and reality has really ramped up over the past 2 years. And so that side, I'll be honest, that kind of dampens my excitement after 2026.
I know.
Because you don't know what's going to happen.
I know. I can't argue with that.
I don't want to be a bummer, but
no, I know, and we want to be in that conversation, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the to the post, to our opportunity to play out from under Texas and OU and A&M with just all of their budget and facilities and recruiting advantages. I'd like to see us flourish over these next few years.
I have to do the short view because I am excited about the short view, and I'm excited about the Big 12 next year.
You
It's
bet.
Tech Talk on Double T 97.3.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Domo arigato. It is Tech Talk here in Double T 97.3, doublet97.3.com. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, BPE in the house taking care of us. Brendan Riker behind the glass. We will have Red Raider baseball against Abilene Christian at 6 o'clock after we're done right here on Double T 97.3. Over on the Score, first four action, 5:30 and 8 o'clock. Obviously, you have some duties tonight.
Yep.
But if you didn't, would you tune into the first four? How do you because I'll be honest, I hate the first four. I hate the first four.
I know. I can't tell you that I've ever watched one of those games. And, if my team was in it, I'd be all over it.
Oh,
As
sure.
you can imagine. I just, you may not be surprised that I haven't watched I don't watch a lot of NIT either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I was home tonight, I would probably fire up the Blues game because we're down the home stretch of NHL regular
How many
season.
games do you
Teams
have
are,
left? Like
15
15 or something
couple
like
weeks.
that? Yeah.
Oh, that's
Less?
you're
Less?
you're a little high.
I'm
there.
more on the NBA number. 15.
That's all right.
I think it's
That's
about
okay.
15 for the NBA.
Yeah, you're probably a little high with that. It's probably closer to 8 to 10 if I had to guess.
Okay.
But, I'd have that, and maybe the second screen is on. Although I'll be honest, if I was at the house tonight, I may go second TV on, on a muted college base. Like what's going on in the Big 12? Is there any really interesting Big 12 midweek thing? Again, if I wasn't
Any shopping
at our
network
game,
marathons on?
yeah, probably not. So
I need to get my ShamWow.
Yeah, no, probably wouldn't. That'd probably be it. It'd probably be hockey and some baseball. Might
Diners, drive-ins, and dives on one screen.
No, if there was zero interesting baseball, I might land it on one of those two hoops games. Especially if it was compelling. If you flip it over there and there's 6 minutes left and it's a tie game, like all right, I'll give this a run.
Yeah, I'll be hypocritical for a second. I hate the concept of the first four. I think it's stupid. Like,
Yeah,
I don't get what that small addition was because it doesn't solve anything, right? Like the college football playoff jumping from 4 to 12 and then possibly
that
14 or whatever.
solves some things.
That's
yes.
a huge jump.
And
that took out some of the your
Yes.
conference champions not getting in. And it's going to have its own other bag of worms. I understand that, but I think that as far as getting more teams in, that bag of worms is worth it. But like the 4 teams from 60, you couldn't be. And I get you say, well, you're one of the best 64, but you're not because then you have the group of fives. Still, what is it? Best of 40 if you're doing
Right.
Power 5,
Right.
Like I think, and I also am very much aware and am expecting it to be. You're hearing more expansion talk for the NCAA tournament, jumping to 72. I think that will happen. I don't know how long. I don't know if I'll hate that as much as the initial first 4. It just seems so dumb. But to be hypocritical, it is at the same time, it is college basketball.
Oh,
and it's
absolutely.
postseason basketball.
That's
So
what I mean.
it'll be
it's kind of a little taste. It's a little taste 48 hours ahead of time.
It'll give my computer something to have
that's
on
fine.
while Tech baseball's
Again,
on the big
yeah,
screen.
Exactly. And I'm looking forward to all of it heating up, no doubt. But yeah, really looking more forward to the Thursday and Friday situation than tonight's. But it is what it is. It's always interesting, by the way, as we in the studio, we've got CBS Sports Network muted, and one of their basketball studio personalities is former Texas Tech head coach Chris Walker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was.
I have not been looking forward very much. I guess
That's him. Yeah. Well, and he was here for what? I guess he was technically the interim. I think he was for the end, but almost all of the year that Billy Gillespie, didn't coach or didn't finish. So most people said that dealt with him on a day-to-day basis say he was a good dude. But But Tubby Smith was hired, and the rest is history.
You got the Wildcats on deck tonight. Speaking of your other duties, what do we think of the Wildcats?
They're not bad. They're not bad at all. They, of course, they're playing in the WAC now. Their closer was here last year. They've also got a pitcher that's way down the list, only appeared in one game, named Nolan Foster, who was here last year as well. But, Cade McGarr, fans might remember it because he actually did a little two-way thing. I think he threw a couple times, maybe an inning here or there, and then played some infield. And, in fact, he was on the field for a bunch of the final innings against A&M in that game that went all night. Cade was out there, I think, at second base, turned a couple big double plays and all, but was behind Lopez and that. But anyway, it's kind of interesting because they started the year with him as the shortstop and doing some pitching. He hadn't played much shortstop lately, but he's now their closer. And he's got in 7+ innings, he's allowed 2 runs or 1 run or something. So he's got a couple saves, and so he would pitch. He appeared in games on Saturday and Sunday. And so he if this is a tight game tonight, and a game that calls for a closer, he would appear.
What are you most interested in seeing from the Red Raiders side? Just trying to bounce back from a few things.
Offense, the offense bouncing back. Some guys getting their feet under them. Because the turnaround from this Tuesday game, this Tuesday to Thursday is much like last week, playing on Wednesday and then again on Friday, which the 48-hour difference is not a big deal. In fact, most guys would probably prefer that over two off days, because obviously BYU here, in 48 hours, getting ready to go with them conference play. But yeah, I think these dudes, just some, and I've been there. Lord knows I've been there as a player. You come back to town licking your wounds going, mercy, I was 2 for 11 this weekend, and we got a bunch of guys that did that. And so, you just want to get yourself right. And, that's the key.
We haven't heard anything about Bravo, right?
No, Coach Tadlock, I think, mentioned last night that he thought he would be good to go this weekend. Now, for most college coaches, weekend is just your way of referring to the weekend series, which means Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But if we're being super technical and splitting hairs,
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, and so I wonder if that means he needs, a week or 3 or 4 days.
He means that he can't come back on Thursday because it's not how we view the weekend, but he can come back on Friday.
Maybe Friday, definitely Saturday.
There you go.
Right. So he said that last night, and so it probably tells us that he's not playing tonight. Now, of all the, and of course he's been insanely hot. He was, it was interesting, and I happened to be just looking at him because he swung and missed a couple times. And after maybe a foul ball, he was kind of shaking his right hand. And typically the hamate bone is at the base of the hand that's on the knob, and for him it would be the left hand. Well, he was shaking the right hand. But I never like seeing hand and wrist injuries at whatever degree.
Sure.
Because if guys will try to play through that, and we all did. I used to jam my hand when I would steal, and my left wrist was always hurting. And, you just deal with it. But I don't like the thought of him playing through a bunch of hand and wrist pain if that thing's really bothering him. We'll see. But anyway, after he struck out, he continued to shake it. Coach Tadlock saw it, talked to him, and then Gage Harrelson ran out there. So hopefully this is just a naggy little sprain, and a few days off will clear it up.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and DoubleT973.com. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Brennan Riker behind the glass, taking care of us. Thanks for hanging out with us. You can keep hitting us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line, or you can call the Visual Edge IT hotline. It's 806-771-0973. Gus, you got the Abilene Christian Wildcats on deck after we're done, 6 o'clock here on Double T 97.3. You talked about the offense bouncing back. Certainly from what you saw against Baylor, What did you think of the pitching, though, over the weekend as a whole? Now, Baylor,
as a whole,
bottom end of the conference team for a reason, but...
And by the way, I'll take that bet on where were they picked? Weren't they picked near the bottom, at the very, very bottom? Do you remember?
I don't remember if they were dead last or... I thought,
I'll take that bet.
I thought it was like...
I'll take that bet.
I thought it was them and then a couple of new ones, but...
I know.
So you're saying...
They're going to overachieve that.
Overachieve?
Yeah. And I'm not saying they're going to, kick the door in and go destroy stuff, but they're better than that. They're better than that. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, if I'm going to try to get that release up just to see what the preseason pick for them. Here we go, right here. They were chosen 11th. Yep, I will take that bet. I think they're going to finish higher than 11th. How's that?
Who was behind them?
BYU and Cincinnati.
Okay.
The pitching wasn't bad. You have to understand too the just the park elements, the park factors. We talked with the Abilene Christian coach today, and one of John's questions to him was, what he thoughts about Tech, coming off this weekend where they didn't hit, and he's like, hey, he goes, that place is really hard. It can be really hard to play in when the wind's blowing in, and And I said it as the thing was progressing. It's one of the least offensive situations you'll see now. So it's amazing that we're sitting around going, oh, this pitcher sure did throw well, and what's wrong with the hitters? Now the hitters do need to find a way to be better than they were, no doubt, because you got to be able to manufacture runs in any environment. Just didn't have enough dudes reaching base to even get anything going over that on Sunday for sure. Their guys did a good job of just filling up the strike zone, and ours did for the most part. And maybe the most distressing part to this is how good Ryan Free had been until the last two outings. He threw on Wednesday against New Mexico State and then threw Sunday, and it was a disaster both times. And like in two outings, his ERA went from 1 point something, I've got it in my notes, to I don't know, it's up around 5 or 6 now. It's like we don't need him to be wrecked from a confidence standpoint, because one of those is a big high chopping ground ball is kind of a tough deal for him. And if that goes a little bit different, maybe it's a double play ball, but instead it's an infield single, then he hits the next guy, and that kind of turned on its ear. But obviously,
like you said, when you pair that to the time before that against New Mexico State, there,
right,
yeah, that
faced 4 hitters, 3, 2 doubles and a homer or whatever, and so that's concerning, just because you want your late inning guys to all get it together. Parrish threw well again. He did throw well against New Mexico State. Struggled against Texas. Took the loss in the Sunday game. Josh Sanders. Those 3 guys all pitch, and you need all those dudes to be as good as possible, because these games in Big 12 play will come down to late innings. How many times it's going to be 4-3 in the 7th, and you need to hang zeros. Obviously, the highlight of the week, and I would say the week, Clint, Zane Petty, and we talked about that at length last week, and he threw really well out last Tuesday. This is your Saturday starter coming into the season. Really struggled his first 2 starts, and lost his weekend spot, moved to the midweek, threw a couple innings over in Albuquerque in relief, got the start against New Mexico State, 6 innings, really good baseball, and looked like a weekend guy. Gets the start again tonight, and we'll see. We want him to get back into a flow of just throwing strikes. And, he was a freshman last year, obviously drafted out of high school, and it was like most freshman seasons, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. The very last thing he did was throw 5 innings of 3-hit, 1-run baseball at Florida against the Gators in the regional. And that was the same Florida team that, 2 weeks later was playing in the finals of the College World Series. So this isn't just some fluky, blur your eyes a little bit and it looks like a college pitcher. No, the guy was drafted out of high school. The stuff is real. The arm is real. Him being in the strike zone and just collecting himself when there's something that goes on bad behind him, or a walk or two, or he loses the strike zone, being able to collect himself. It's a big deal. It's the transition from being the high school guy that can just go, oh, well, I walked them full, now I can just blow these 3 dudes away and we're good. Can't do that at this level. And so he's a big key. And then obviously to your question, Kyle Robinson was fantastic the other day. Went from the worst outing of his college career 2 Fridays ago against Texas to the best outing the other day. 7 innings, just a couple walks, 2-3 hits. Again, ballpark wasn't very offensive, and there may have been one ball really well hit off of him, a deep ball that died at the track like a bunch of ours did. But Kyle Robinson, fantastic. And so, this thing needs to get back around to Robinson and Petty being where they need to be, so that then you can have fall into place behind that guys like Hewer and Washburn and whatever. 2 weeks from today, Stanford's here for a 2-gamer, and so it'll be a week in which the 5th starter, the 4th and 5th, are going to matter. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the pitching definitely was better in Waco, and I don't know how crazy offensive the ballpark's going to be this week here against these guys tonight and BYU, but we definitely won't have 25 miles blowing out straight out to left or whatever, and so that helps those guys and their psyches for sure. Need some W's this week though, no doubt.
Sure.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Happy Tuesday. It's Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com, and it is Optimum Game Day Live. Red Raider Baseball taking on Abilene Christian, 6 o'clock, an hour from now. We'll lead you all the way up to it. Zane Petty will go for the Red Raiders. You'll hear Jamie Lint and Choice Woodman on the call tonight. We are live from the First United Bank studio. You can call us on the Visual Edge IT hotline. That number is open for you, 806-771-0973. Or you can hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Clint Scott, Brennan Riker are in our same seats. Now welcoming in Chuck Heinz. Chuck, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. We didn't spell well today. I didn't hear how you did this morning.
I missed it. I had a chance to go over 500, but
Yeah.
I missed it.
What was the word today?
I can't remember. I didn't spell it correctly.
So do you just forget the ones you can't spell? I don't need to.
Well,
I don't need it anyways.
I've got some that I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Just kidding. We got this on the chat line. All hail Chuck.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Red Raider basketball draws a 6 seed.
Yeah.
Draws North Carolina State.
Yeah.
What was your gut reaction when you saw where you were in the tournament and the opponent?
Well, I was excited about where you were in the tournament because that means if you get to the Sweet 16, you get to play in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And I thought the committee showed you some respect for that because I felt like that you probably should have gotten a 5 seed. I felt you were slightly underseeded, but not terribly. With regard to NC State, I mean, they won 5 games in a row. So the question I have is, did they peak? Mm-hmm. Because I mean, when they were running on adrenaline. I mean, they played 5 games in a row, and so I realized they're going to have a couple of days off, and now they're in the tournament. They didn't expect to be in the tournament, but have they peaked? Have they reached their high? Do they feel like, oh man, we kind of accomplished something here? And is their guard going to be down a little bit? In some cases, yes, and some cases, no. I think what concerns me more than NC State is Kentucky, but the big question in my mind is, what's the status of Darrion Williams?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's at the forefront of everyone's mind. We talked about this the last time we hung out, and that was right before the Big 12 tournament. We were both saying the same thing. I just don't think you're going to see Warren Washington. And so the question then turns into Darrion Williams, because although Warren Washington has been out for some of these wins, as he figured out a way to win without him, I don't think you can do that without Darrion Williams. And I'm not even sure if you have a hindered Darrion Williams, what that's going to look like if he has to, manage minutes or a situation like that. Now, I think you will see a fairly healthy version of him, but
I mean,
if it's not
15 minutes before the game, they thought he was going to play.
Yeah, and I didn't think he was going to play that day, because if there was any sort of like you did your work that you thought you would be able to do against BYU, and I'm not saying that we're just going to give up against Houston, but as far as getting another quality win, I was with you. I thought that sealed up a 5 seed. Could have been worse on if you're viewing them as misseeded or misplaced in the tournament, but there was no reward to the risk if you did play him. So I think that was
about Houston.
Against Houston.
No,
I think that was an easy decision. But at the same time, I get what you're saying, where it went all the way down to the actual wire before. Yeah, he's not going to go.
Well, because he went out there and he couldn't cut. I mean, and they had worked on his ankle a lot, and he had worked on it a lot. But when it all came down to it, he just wasn't able to do it. And then shows up to the selection show in a boot, which I don't know that we should be that concerned. I guess I was really more concerned when I saw him on a trike on the sideline. They had that one shot, Washington's in a boot, and then they had Darrion show up, with the little ankle trike. I was like, oh my God, what's going on there? But I'm certain it was just to give him, just keep pressure off it as much as they could once they determined he wasn't going to play. So that's what I'm concerned about.
The North Carolina State is an interesting poll, just because you talked about 5 wins in 5 days, and I've seen a little bit, not just a lot, because it's, decades ago, or a decade ago, I should say. You remember the Kemba Walker run, and you go, boy, when's the last time you saw someone go on this sort of run in the conference tournament? And they went on to have success. But the difference is like that UConn team had a legit superstar in Kemba Walker. Where this one, they've got some nice pieces. I think their big guy is a concern for everybody, just from how your team is built. But that's still it's not a gimme. But at the same time, that was a team that down their final 9-game stretch went 2-7.
Yeah. Boy, I love this from the chat line. Chuck really brings the content. Whoa, I'm blown away by the insight. Woo! So we should be more concerned with the blue blood 3 seed than the Cinderella 11 seed. Yeah, you should be, because you know what they've got. They've got Kentucky on the front of the jersey. I realize they've not necessarily had the year that they've wanted to have, and that they have slipped in recent years, but they're still Kentucky. Taradiddle was my
Taradiddle.
Word. Yeah, that's the word I missed this morning. What does I don't know.
I don't know why I looked at Brennan. Brennan, I'm going to give you a chance to blow us away. What does taradiddle mean?
To something with walking. It has something to do with walking away.
Something told me as you drug out 2 that you didn't know what it was, and we were making it up. But I appreciate the effort.
There's 2 D's, by the way, in taradiddle. What is the meaning of the word taradiddle? A trivial or childish lie, a pretentious nonsense. See, Jamie has these hidden words, hidden meanings to me.
Subliminal messaging.
Yeah, subliminal messages, right? So, pretentious nonsense.
How about this on the chat line? I know this one. A paradiddle is a drumming rudiment, but it was taradiddle.
See, I told him a story that the lucky lady and I made some s'mores on Sunday. So I was trying to bait him into giving me the word s'mores.
Yeah.
And I knew it.
Are you saying s'mores still, or are you saying s'mores?
I generally say s'mores.
S'mores?
Yeah.
That was a big argument when that first popped up.
Between
the 2 morning show co-hosts.
Right. It's like, okay, so s'mores. We know what we're talking about, right? When we say that? Right? For the most part,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
graham crackers,
right?
chocolate, marshmallow.
Okay? Oh. So what the hell does it matter?
We'll come back with some more tech talk here on Double T 97.3 when we return.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining us here on Tech Talk. You got us on Double T 97.3 and DoubleT973.com. It is Optimum Game Day Live. 30 more minutes with us as we lead you up to Red Raider baseball at home against the Abilene Christian Wildcats. Clint Scott, Chuck Heinz, Brendan Riker behind the glass. You can hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Get us your questions for Ask Tech Talk. That'll be in 15 minutes from now, brought to you by Visual Edge IT.
Can I give you a crazy number on this Abilene Christian Texas Tech baseball series?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this will be the 55th meeting. Texas Tech leads 37-17. Okay, and you go, okay, so what's the interesting number? Texas Tech has won 15 of the last 16. So that means at one point in time, you had 22 wins, and they had 16 wins.
Well, that was a lot closer, and when they were at a lower level.
Yes, and this only goes back. I say only, but it only goes back to 1976. So we're talking, 38 years. It's real.
And this will probably surprise you, since I'm not an Abilene
48
Christian
years.
historian, but you go like to the 80s. I wonder if maybe someone knows this on the chat line. Like whatever that level was that ACU was playing at, but they were the powerhouse of that time. I mean,
Jamie pointed me out to this this morning. We were talking about this, I think, off the air, and then a friend of mine texted me about how Abilene Christian is for him what North Texas is for me. It just feels like you always play them really close. And I mean, that number, that you've won 15 of the last 16, kind of supports that theory. And then just the fact that, like you said, I mean, they were playing at a much lower level with, I mean, even in those days, you're in the Southwest Conference, and certainly Abilene Christian was anywhere near Division I.
Yeah,
and I'm sure people go, well, they're pretty good, they're pretty good. Well, it doesn't matter. You're in the Southwest Conference, for God's sake. I mean, you should dominate them, right?
I do like that voice. No, yeah.
Okay.
I like that voice, and I very much enjoyed the Italian the other day. It's really stuck with me. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line for our spelling bee attempts that we've had. You thought, or you had said that Jamie's picking out these words with subliminal messaging.
Yes.
Someone reminds Chuck, the words are completely random.
Oh, yeah, right.
At least over here on Tech Talk, they're completely random.
It's got the randomizer, right?
Yeah, we got the random word generator. It's a whole
random word generator, right?
It's a
Sure. Have you picked a Final Four yet?
I have.
Have you announced it yet?
I have not. I haven't been holding it back or anything like that. Have you done your bracket?
No, I think I'm gonna do some work on it tonight. I'll tell you this. I can tell you one team that I will not have.
Purdue. Is it Purdue?
Purdue.
Neither did I.
Purdue. I just don't care for them. First of all, they disappoint you every year.
Yeah.
And Zach Edey, he's a big fella. I mean, he's dominant.
It's really good.
I think he gets. It'll be interesting to see how the fouls are called against him, because I thought in the Wisconsin game there were a lot of fouls that were called on Wisconsin that Zach Edey initiated, partly because of his height and partly because those guys, I mean, they were in position, but because of where they stood up against his body, he got benefit of the doubt. And so it'll be interesting to see how close they call it or how much do they let him play. Because remember that game, I think it was a KU game where the Big 12 official goes over to the mic and says, because they were looking to see if it was an upgrade to a flagrant one, and he says, that's a Big 12 foul in March. Okay, so what does an NCAA foul look like in March?
And I think, you can say the same thing about a lot of conference tournaments, that the whistles are typically, a little looser. And they let them play a little more physically. I would think
some of these guys do.
I would, and again, this is a broad. Every crew is going to be different, but just a broad view of it, which is nice for the Big 12, because we've been used to that all year long. And that's not a put down on the Big 12 refs. You've been a more physical league, and it's been that way for a little bit. But
how's it going to be with Big 10 officials, or how's it going to be with Pac-12 officials, or how's it going to be with SEC officials? Is it going to be called the same? Because it's not.
And I mean, that's Zach Edey is a special breed, where you barely have players that can match up with him, and especially in these early rounds. That's what made the upset last year even wilder, right? With Fairleigh Dickinson.
You know what I call?
What do you call it? I knew you called it something.
Fairly ridiculous.
Yeah, I like it. When Fairly Ridiculous upset them. That's the fun part, obviously, of March. Even though you don't have these matchups, someone can take them down. But I'm with you. There's the stereotype that Matt Painter and Purdue lose early and they can't get
just
it
like
done.
Gene Cady.
But that's because that's how it's been. So it's to the point where this will probably be the year though that they go and win it all, because this is really the first true year that I'm like, I'm never going to trust Purdue again until they prove me wrong.
What's something that you don't care to eat that you would eat if Purdue won it all?
Oh. I don't really like, texturally, I don't like cooked onions when they're real big, like fajita style cooked onions. So maybe just like a big plate a big plate of cooked onions.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's not a flavor thing, because whenever we cook at the house, we do it all the time. But I am an infant, and like, how small can I make these onions where you still get the flavor, but they disappear?
Like the McDonald's onions when they chop them all up.
Well, but I like them raw though. Yeah. That's the thing.
Okay.
I like them raw. It's just for whatever reason when it's cooked, it or like if you get like a meatloaf or something like that.
So who's your Final Four?
Sorry. If you get a meatloaf and the onions are
I'm never
big,
having
I
meat.
won't forgive you.
I'm here to tell you this. I'm here to tell you this.
Distracted me.
I will never eat meatloaf again.
Really? Why?
No,
anti-meatloaf?
Just, we had enough growing up.
Oh, okay. Sick of it.
Had my fill.
What if I said they don't have giant onions or like little pill bugs in there? Little roly-polies.
No more meatloaf.
I have Tennessee. I have Houston. I have UConn and have Arizona. I went pretty chalk, and I have UConn beating Houston. I went repeat national champion. I don't feel good about it at all, but hey, wasn't going to be perfect anyways. Yeah.
I think Houston's in trouble. I question how much they can score.
Yeah, I think they're going to be led by defense, and I know that they just got blown out in the Big 12 championship, but there is something. The scoring wasn't great, and it wasn't great all year, but it was a little off there towards the end. It was not off in the regular season finale against Kansas, though, but there wasn't a lot that was off.
I just thought that 60-point effort that they put up in the quarterfinals to get to us, that said a lot to me. It's like, oh, okay, maybe they're not that good.
This has been the Tech Talk Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.